you. Let me go ahead and hit record here. I just wanted to say hello and welcome to everybody. My name is Brooke Kleberger, and our team is called the Diamond Tribe. And welcome to Chelsea's team. I don't know what your team name is, um, but welcome to you all. I'm excited to do this joint training together. So I just wanted to kind of intro for my team how I know Chelsea. And for those of you that don't know, I met Chelsea 2 years ago. We both earned the Silver Stars trip together. And so I remember specifically, I remember meeting you and your husband out by the pool at a sweet resort in Arizona. And we talked a lot about business, obviously, on that trip. And I remember specifically talking about Instagram because we were there with two girls who were doing really well on Instagram. And Chelsea and I both were kind of like, Instagram is intimidating. Like, I think she said she had maybe 500 followers at that time. And we were both like, yeah, we know that that's kind of where things are moving, but neither of us had really made the jump over to Instagram. And I just have watched Chelsea grow her Instagram feed from 500 people to over 7,000 followers. And it's beautiful. I just love everything that she's doing over there. And I know she's worked really hard to grow her business, to grow her Instagram account, and to grow her business. And that is the reason that I was like, I would love for you to come and talk to our team. She also just recently went Emerald, I think just a few months ago. Well, it's November now, so maybe more than a few months ago, but that is how I know Chelsea. So I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea and let her tell you a little bit about herself and everything that she knows about Instagram in about 25 minutes. So no pressure.
I know I'm going to try really hard because I can be a talker. Um, so yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background, just kind of on my Plexus journey. So, like Brooke said, I went Emerald in May of this year, and I have been with Plexus for a little over 4 years. Um, and a little bit of background on kind of how I got started. I would have nothing to do with network marketing coming into this. I had been looking for a health solution for my oldest daughter, who was 3 at the time. And really, since she had been born, she had struggled with eczema, autoimmunity, and low functioning immunity. And we had tried everything under the sun for her: probiotics, holistic remedies, meds. Nothing worked for her until somebody sent us a bottle of ProBio 5, completely changed her health. I started taking Triplex, felt like a different person. And it was really just an answer to prayer for us from a health standpoint. I am kind of a career educator. I was a public school elementary teacher until I had my girls, and then went part-time teaching 2 days a week at a hybrid homeschool after they were born. And we were kind of at a place when we started Plexus where God had kind of called me to homeschool my kiddos, kind of at that hybrid homeschool. But we were in a place financially that said I needed to go back to school full time and teach full time. My husband is a public school teacher, so the finances just were not adding up to what I felt like God had for our family. So I will never forget, after these products worked for us, he was very clear to me that this was kind of my best shot at being home with my kids. And so I've always taken this business opportunity very seriously because I knew that it was something that God specifically gave me to be home with them. I did not have a huge social media presence at all when I started this. I had an Instagram account. I didn't use it. I had maybe 700 Facebook friends, and I posted maybe twice a month on Facebook, just sharing cute pictures of my kids. So I knew when he kind of placed this opportunity in my lap that I had a lot of learning to do. And it certainly has been a learning journey. None of this has been easy for me. Like, every step of the way from Facebook to Instagram has been a learning curve. And honestly, I anticipate that it will always be a learning curve because social media is such a changing landscape. And once we get comfortable in one space, they change it, right? But I think that's what is so cool about this whole industry. And I know we talk a lot about just that growth mindset that you really have to have in Plexus, is that when it starts getting easy, that's when you stop growing. So as much as I hate the growth process sometimes, I'm thankful for it because that's what helps us to become better people through this. And if you don't get anything else out of this call tonight, I would say that is the one thing that I attribute my success to this in, is being willing to learn and being willing to adapt and being willing to admit that I don't have all the answers. And I can say, after 4 years in this, and I think my sister April is on here with me. She's an Emerald with me, under me. There's at least once a week I call her and I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like, there are still days in this where I'm like, I don't know how to lead a team. I don't know what I'm doing on social media. how is this? How are we here after 4 years? And I don't think that ever gets better. We're always in a perpetual state of learning. Um, so a little snapshot of my journey with Plexus. So I started solely on Facebook. The first 2.5 years of my business were solely on Facebook. I went silver pretty quickly, 6 months to gold, 6 more months to senior gold. So I was senior gold after a year. Right before my 2-year mark, I almost double ranked Ruby, senior Ruby, and that's when I met Brooke at Silver Stars. And honestly, I just expected to just roll right into Emerald. I really hadn't done anything too drastic on social media. I was just sharing, pictures of my family, sharing kind of our day-to-day life, and sprinkling Plexus in there, pictures of me and my pink drink. And I really thought that that was just what I was going to do forever and just roll right into Emerald. And that is not what happened for me at all. When I hit senior Ruby, I stayed there for about 8 months, and I didn't just stay there. I fell backwards to about 600 points. We regained a little bit in the spring, but I could not break that barrier of 850, 900 points, no matter what I did. I just wasn't growing new business builders. I didn't feel like I was inspiring new people to do this with me. The things I had been doing for 2.5 years were just not working anymore. And like Brooke said, I remember back at Silver Stars, the seed for Instagram was kind of planted there for me. There were 2 girls who I don't even know if they're doing Plexus anymore, Brooke. But they were just killing it on Instagram. And I remember she said to me that 95% of her ambassadors were people that she didn't know on Instagram. And I remember that blew my mind. And I was so terrified. I was not in a place at that point where I was even willing to dip a toe in the water there. But that planted a seed for me because I remember thinking, gosh, there's unlimited potential there. So when I kind of took, evaluated and decided, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to be a jewel in this company. What is it going to take? Like, what is it that I need to change? I knew that Instagram was the direction that I needed to go. And as much as that terrified me, like I said, I knew that it was going to be unlimited potential and that it was going to be worth it. So the things that I knew about Instagram before I went into it is that you had to have pretty pictures, you had to have snappy captions, and I knew that people use things called hashtags. And that is all I knew about Instagram going in. I learned that it is very different from Facebook in a lot of ways, a lot other ways than that. But that's kind of what I went in with. I took a bunch of pretty pictures. I bought myself an expensive preset and started putting out homeschool content because that's kind of the vein I was running in when I first started this. And after about a month or 2, I was posting all these pretty pictures. I had all these, snappy captions, and I was, hashtagging the heck out of homeschool mom. And I was like, where the heck are all these homeschool moms? Like, why aren't they finding me? My pictures are cute. I'm putting out valuable stuff. Where are they? And that is when I quickly learned that Instagram is not about pretty pictures, although aesthetic is important. It's just about as much as connection as Facebook is. It's just done in a different way. So I'm going to kind of walk y'all through like the top 5 things. Do I have 5? I have 5 things that I've learned that have helped me. The first one is just that Google and YouTube are your best friends. There are so many educational resources out there and videos by jewels who have blazed this path before us that will be your best friend. I don't know if you guys follow Clean House with Kids and This Loud House on Instagram, Marianne Anderson and Trisha Regar. I religiously watch their stories and their posts every single day. And I started soaking up and watching every single training that they had done. And I started implementing those steps. They're incredible. They share so much content and do so many trainings for Plexus. So if you haven't dug into any of their trainings, I highly suggest that you do that. But I started following those jewels who were nailing it. I started following other people in Instagram, bloggers and influencers who were kind of within my own niche, which we'll talk about in a minute, and just watched what they were doing, and not to copy what they were doing, but to normalize Instagram and to normalize putting your face out there, to normalize doing things in a different way. So find people who are in your niche, who are killing it on Instagram that you enjoy following, and watch them. Just watch what they're doing. You're going to by proxy absorb what they're doing and seek out those training videos because they're out there. The second one is get really, really clear on what your niche is. And this is where I think there was a social media shift a couple of years ago. And I think it's a really positive shift towards people not just putting out content that was all about themselves, but now it shifted over to adding value to other people. Social media consumers are asking one question: what can you do for me? Okay. I want you to think about the people that you follow, not your friends and family, but think about bloggers, think about influencers. Why do you follow them? You follow them because you are getting something from them. They are adding value to you in some way or another. Um, I know my team has heard me use this example before, but there's a blogger that I follow on Instagram called Cotton Stem, and I do not miss a day of her stories. She's a girl mom, she's a homeschool mom. She loves all things home and decor. And if she orders a pillow sham, I'm ordering it. If she has a homeschool, tip that she's using, I'm doing it. That girl adds massive value to my life. Her page is not about her. It's about what can she do for me. And I think that's the mindset that we have to get ourselves in, is how can we show up and serve other people. And an exercise that's really helpful for this, because I think when we're talking about serving people well, we really have to niche down, because we can't serve everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody is a homeschooling homemaker who stays home with their kids. I can't serve everybody, but I can serve those people that fall within that niche well. And you've got to hone in and figure out, what are your things? Like, what are your 5 things? So draw a circle on a paper, and some of you may have done this exercise before, and divide it into 5 different pieces, kind of like a pie. And you're going to fill one of those pieces with plexus, and one of those pieces with inspiration, encouragement, empowerment, however you want to word that. And then there should be 3 empty pieces. And those are going to be your other 3 niches, or your other 3 things that you're going to show up and add value in. For me, that's motherhood, homeschooling, and housekeeping. Those are kind of like my three things that I can do with my eyes closed. Things that are easy for you to share, not things that, are going to be difficult for you, that you're going to have to go out and do massive amounts of research on to come in and share. Think about the things that are easy for you. If you're a dog lover and you're invested in like dog rescue, that could be one of your things. If you're a military spouse, that could absolutely be a niche. If you are paleo or vegan, that can be a niche. Find the things that you are interested in, or that you are passionate about learning more about, and put those in those circles. And everything that you post should go through that filter. If it's not about one of those 5 things, you're not sharing it on Instagram, because you want to hone in and you want to attract those people. And kind of a general rule of thumb that I like to follow with content is 70% personal, 30% plexus. And a lot of people think that that's, coming in and hearing that for the first time, they think, well, gosh, that's low. Shouldn't I be talking about plexus more? And we're kind of rolling into the third one. You've got to build trust and credibility with people outside of plexus before they care what you have to sell or what you have to share. So keep that at the forefront of your mind. 70% personal, adding value, 30% plexus. And that kind of rolls into, like, once you have your niche, once you know who you're speaking to, once you have kind of your ideal person, and this is probably this was the hardest part, I think, for me, kind of coming into Instagram, is you've got to show up and you've got to be consistent in that vein. You can't have this great niche and have this beautiful profile and have all these beautiful pictures and this curated content if you're not showing up and being consistent and consistently adding value and building trust with people. You've got to come in with a plan and develop that content every single week and show up in your stories. And you've got to get comfy, turning the camera around and showing your face. And I know I talk with so many people on my own team who are so terrified to do that. And I can tell you that I almost threw up. Like, I almost threw up the first day that I turned the camera around and talked into stories, because it feels so narcissistic, right? Like, it's like all about us, the camera's right there on our face. But I think this is where we have to turn our mindset from it's all about me to it's all about them. If you're sitting there talking about yourself and tooting your own horn and talking about me, then yes, it is a little bit narcissistic. But when you know that you are within your niche and you are adding value to people, and maybe you're sharing a new mom tip that you've got, or you're sharing, this great deal that you got at Target, it's no longer about you. It's about who you're serving and what you're giving other people. So as long as you have that mindset of adding value, you can turn the camera around all day long, because you've got to build that trust with people. And I love this. And I think Trisha Regar said this in one of her stories. being face to face on stories is as close as you're ever going to get with being face to face with a stranger on Instagram. That's how you build trust with people. Um, so you've got to get comfortable doing that. People are not going to give you their social security number to order Plexus if they don't feel like they know you. And getting to know you is being able to see your face in stories. So just kind of have that mindset. If that's a mind block for you, turning your face around and talking in stories every day, it's not about you, it's about how you're serving and what kind of value you're adding. And kind of running along with that, you have to have a plan. There's no getting around this. This takes time. You are not going to wake up on Tuesday morning with inspiration and a pretty picture of what to post. You've got to be intentional with this. And honestly, I probably spend about an hour and a half or 2 hours every weekend planning out content for the week. Once or twice a month, I'll go around and I'll get myself looking cute and I'll take a couple of pictures of myself. I'll take some pictures of the girls, take some pictures around the house, shoot them through Lightroom, put my presets on them, and I've got them in a folder ready to go. So I'm not scrambling to find a picture. I'm not scrambling on a rainy day to try to get good lighting. I've got those pictures ready to go. I've got a running list of posts. I've got a running list of stories saved in my phone so that I have content kind of on demand. But it takes time to sit down and do that and have it prepared ahead of time. So make the time to do that. And I know Brooke is going to talk a little bit about that, just kind of having that mindset that your business is a business and you have to sit down and treat it that way. If you're going to do Instagram, you've got to treat it like it's your storefront. That's your open sign. That is your I'm in business sign. And you need to treat it that way. So it doesn't have to take hours upon hours, but sitting down with a good chunk of time, an hour and a half to plan that out will be well worth it. All right, number 4. So once you kind of start doing all of those things and you start being really consistent and you start showing up, you're going to discover that there is this whole underground world of Instagram that you didn't even know existed. There's comment pods, there's engagement threads, there's giveaways. People are building relationships like crazy behind the scenes. Susie is not just showing up on Monday morning with a picture of her coffee mug and getting 600 likes on that picture. There is a lot of hard work and a lot of behind the scenes engagement that has gone into that. And the best way to start doing that, and this has been a really practical tool for me, is to start finding people who are like you on Instagram. And the best way to do that, as soon as hashtags come back, they've taken away hashtags for the election. I'm hoping they're going to come back soon, is to start searching hashtags that are relevant to you. So maybe I'm searching hashtag homeschool mom or I don't know, hashtag simple decor. I'm going to go under the recent hashtags tab and I'm going to look for people who are like me and who are my same size. So when I started, I had about 1,000 followers. So I was looking for a homeschool mama, maybe a girl mom, maybe somebody who loved home decor, who was around 1,000 followers. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to like some of her posts, I'm going to comment on some of her posts, and then I'm going to send her a message. And it's not going to be about Plexus. I'm going to tell her, hey, Brooke, just found your profile. I love what you had to say about, parenting your 2-year-old, mom life. So glad to have found your account. Okay. You're just connecting with her. And then you're going to write Brooke down in your little Instagram notebook. And this little notebook was really like the catalyst to my success on here. Okay, this is where you're going to be intentional with people. I'm going to write Brooke in my little engagement tab right here. And every day I'm going to go in, or a couple of times a week, however you want to do that, you're going to go in and you're going to start engaging with Brooke, because Brooke is my people. I think Brooke could be a business builder. She could use these products. So I'm going to go in and start intentionally building a relationship with Brooke. And what will start to happen is one of two things. Brooke will either start engaging back with you and you guys are going to kind of build this Instagram relationship, or Brooke is not going to pay you the time of day. If after a couple of weeks, Brooke is not engaging back on your stuff, she's not liking your stuff, you're going to erase her from your book and you're going to go find another one, because there are 10,000 other people just like her that are going to need what you have. You just have to find them. So you need to have probably 20, 25 people in that book that you're kind of actively, I don't want to say pursuing, but actively engaging with. And that is going to boost your engagement. That's going to boost your visibility. And you're going to start to discover this whole underground world. People will start reaching out to you. Hey, do you want to be in this engagement thread where we kind of love on each other's posts? You're going to start to meet people within your niche that way. You'll start to discover these engagement threads, which again is not about likes, but it's about exposing your content to more people who are like you. So for instance, I'm in 3 different engagement pods on Instagram now. One of them is a homeschool mom group, one of them is a Georgia moms group, and one of them is a home decor group. And if I make a post, I go in there and I'm like, hey guys, I just made a post. They go love on my stuff. A lot of them are now wholesale ambassadors under me because I've been growing relationships. They've given me referrals, and it just opens the door to this whole relationship thing on Instagram. But that takes intentionality. You have to keep up with this, and you have to show up building this every day, because as hard as it is on Facebook to, share Plexus with people that you do know in real life, it's just that much harder to do it on Instagram if you're not intentional. But it is kind of crazy how you start to build that trust, and people will message you out of the blue and put in their social security number for somebody they've never met. So it works. And then the last thing I always get asked about is just the pure numbers on Instagram. Like, how did you grow from 500 to 7,000 followers? A lot of that has been organic, because I have met a lot of people and commented and done the engagement on the back end. I have done a lot of giveaways though that do physically grow your numbers. But I will caution a little bit on giveaways. Giveaways are a great way to grow your physical numbers. But if you're not coming in and doing all of this stuff on the back end, if you're not coming in and adding value and engaging with those people, then it's kind of all for naught. I think one of the worst case scenario is to have, 10,000, 15,000 followers and then have 15 likes on a post. You want to have true followers. I'd much rather have 600 true and engaged followers than have 1 million who don't care what I'm posting. You can't get into this world and get into that mindset of how many likes do I have? How many followers do I have? It's not about quantity. It is not about quantity. It's about quality all day long. I'd rather have 15 people who are truly engaged in what I'm sharing than a sea of people who couldn't care less, but I have a zillion followers. So if you do giveaways, and I've probably gotten 20 wholesale ambassadors from people that have followed me from a giveaway. If you do giveaways, you have to be really intentional with those. So when I do a giveaway, I've got one coming up next week. I'll probably gain anywhere from 300 to 400 followers from that. I will sit down that night, and anybody that starts following me that's within my niche that looks like, oh, we could vibe together. She would probably find value in what I'm adding. I'm going to message her, and I'm going to just introduce myself. I have a little blurb that I send out. Hey, my name's Chelsea. I'm an Atlanta mom, da, 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 da. Where are you from? And I send a little message simply to introduce myself and start the conversation going. And then I just make sure that I'm adding tremendous value the week following those giveaways so that I retain those followers and I don't have a huge drop off. So I think that there is a lot of value in those giveaways, but you just have to be really intentional and make sure that you're engaging with those people and not just doing it for the follower count, but you're really doing it for the right reasons, if that makes sense. That is really it as far as like practical tips. I'm an open book. I haven't looked at any of the chat here, but if anybody has any quick questions, I know look, Brooke, it's 9:25. I stayed to 25 minutes. I'm proud of myself.
You're
If anybody has specific questions, I'm happy to answer those. Let me look and see. Oh, Jamie loves cotton stem too. She's the best. Still dazed and it makes me want to throw up. Me too, Brooke.
Hey, I got a question.
Okay.
I think I know how you do this, but I think this would give the group a lot of value for you to just kind of say, when you talk about doing giveaways on Instagram, what are your tips with doing that? Because I think there's good ways to do it and not so good ways to do it. And I know you've had lots of success in doing the giveaways. So I just wanted
That's a good question. Steph is the one that sent me that bottle of ProBio 5, by the way. So I've done giveaways in a couple of different ways. There's big giveaway groups that you can join, and I can share some of those if anybody's interested. So let's say like Lovely Seasons giveaway is one where you just kind of throw in $20. There's 60 people who do the giveaway, and you get a ton of followers that way. Everybody's like, in it to win a washer dryer or something. So you do that for kind of like volume. You'll get several hundred followers doing it that way. And again, I think there's a lot of value in that because I will probably find 20 to 40 genuine followers through those pods, which is a really good number, I would say, if you're intentionally engaging with them. But something else that I do that engages my current people, and you can go back and look on my timeline. I did one of these a couple of days ago, is doing like a giveaway on my page. Like the day after the election was crap and everybody hated it. So I was like, I'm giving coffee to 3 people, comment, like, and save this post. And so you're not only boosting your engagement there because people are liking and saving and boosting your visibility on Instagram, but you're also serving your audience. I think showing up and serving your existing audience is just as important as getting those new followers. So those are kind of the 2 main ways. I have teamed up with other like homeschool mamas before, and we've done groups, just 2 or 3 of us before. I did a Target gift card giveaway with like 3 or 4 friends that I met on Instagram. So that's another really great way to do it. And that's a good way to kind of niche down, because those people, their followers are homeschool moms. A lot of mine are. So that you're getting more kind of genuine within your niche followers that way. So you can just kind of message people and say, hey, Jocelyn, you're a homeschool mom. I'm a homeschool mom. Do you want to do a $20 Target gift card giveaway? Just reach out. People are up for anything. Reach out and just do the dang thing. Just do it. There's no wrong way to do it as long as you're serving people. I'm looking at this comment. Don't feel like that. Carla, there are so many, I can't even tell you like how many times I have embarrassed, or what I thought was embarrassed myself on Instagram. But it's not embarrassment. You're just growing. You're figuring out the wrong way to do things so that you can eventually figure out the right way. One of my favorite memes, I have it saved up here on my board, is your first podcast is going to suck. Your first post is going to be terrible. Keep going. You're not doing it for the first one, for the second one, for the 10th one. You're doing it for that 55th one where you nail it and you inspire somebody else and you show somebody else on your team how to do it. So there's no wrong way to do it. You just got to figure out what works for you. But that's kind of it. If y'all have other questions, you can drop them in the chat and I can kind of jump in after Brooke shares. I'm really excited to hear from Brooke because she's going to talk a little bit about time management, because everything that I just talked about requires time. It doesn't just magically appear. And I know that this is a point where I talked to a lot of people on my team who really need to hear this message about time management. A lot of us are busy moms. A lot of us stay home. A lot of us are working outside of the home, and trying to figure out that piece where you can balance home and work and Plexus harmoniously can be hard sometimes. So I'm really excited to hear from Brooke and pick up some tips on how we can do that like graciously, and how we can have the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Chelsea. Well, that was incredible. It's hard for me to follow that because that was so good and I was writing so fast trying to take all the notes. So I appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge with us and doing that in such a way that we can, you condensed it, I know, because you have spent so much time on Instagram. So I really appreciate that. So yes, I'm Brooke, and just to kind of give you a little bit of background about me, I've been doing Plexus for 3 years. I started when I was working full time when I first started, probably like many of you. I actually joined underneath my husband's ex-wife. Her name is Lauren. She's my sponsor. And she is also my stepson's mom. So I had seen her posting about Plexus for a while, and I knew when I joined that if I liked the products, I needed to find a way to get them paid for. Like many of us, right? Because I didn't want that mom guilt. We just bought a home. My husband had just gotten out of ministry. So I was working full time. He was starting to try and grow his construction business. We were redoing our home, and we just didn't have a lot of the budget for this. So I had my stepson, who is now 11. And at the time when I first started, so he would have been 8, I had a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I was 36 weeks pregnant with my 3rd baby. So in a matter of 2.5 years. So time was, I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have extra time. There just wasn't time. So the thought of starting a Plexus business was like, am I crazy here a little bit? Because when am I going to make this happen? So I did, I started it, but honestly, and now, so I've been doing this 3 years. I will say I'll kind of tell you my journey as we go. I started as a working full-time mama. I had 3 kids in 2.5 years. Now my kids are 5, 4, and 3, and I have an 8-month-old. So we have 5 kids all together now. I went from working full-time Plexus, and after a year working full-time, sorry, outside of Plexus and doing Plexus, after a year of doing Plexus, I was able to take a different position that allowed me to just work part-time. And now I am a full-time as of this summer. Totally stopped working altogether. I'm just doing Plexus. So I've kind of been in all the different seasons of how to balance your time chaotically and make your business work while you still kind of function in the home and do all of your other things. So I just wanted to share some of my top tips with you guys, because when I did start doing this, working full time, some of the different things that I did, like I went back to work, I was still nursing. So I would use my pump breaks, and that's when I would check my phone, respond to messages. Like I couldn't be on my phone. Otherwise, I did mental health therapy. So I'm one on one with patients, and I can't be on my phone during that time. So during pump breaks and lunch breaks, um, some days I would take lunch with everybody else, and some days I would just stay in my office and respond to messages. I would use those nooks and crannies when I first started to kind of get me going to respond to messages. um, I also like another thing that I did is once I got my kids in bed at night, I would set my phone timer for 30 minutes, and I would spend 30 minutes cleaning up my house. And my home could have used a lot more than 30 minutes of time, but I would use that time to just quickly do dishes. And for me, it was like a game, like how fast can I get all this stuff cleaned up? And so I would do that for 30 minutes, and then I would sit down and I'd set my phone timer for 30 more minutes. So wherever it stopped after the 30 minutes, that's where my housework stopped for the night. And then I'd sit down and reset my timer for 30 minutes, and I would work my business. And I would send messages, and that's not just like me sitting there and scrolling, but that was me sending messages, responding to messages, making a post, um, checking my back office, all of those things. And usually after that 30 minutes, that timer went off. I was like pumped and ready, and I wanted to keep going. But if I was tired, then that's where I would stop. Um, I will say too, like when I'm thinking back, that was kind of exhausting, but I knew for me what was keeping me going was my why. And I think that that's always something that you have to keep at the front of your mind when you're doing all of these things. Like I could have went to bed at 9 o'clock when my kids were in bed and my husband was in bed, and I could have stopped then. But my why for me at that point was like, I don't want to work full time. I want to be home more with my kids. And this is what's going to allow me to do that. So if that means I have to stay up 30 minutes later or an hour later to make those dreams possible, then I'm willing to put in the work to do that. So I would say for you, especially like it might feel hard to create that time to work your business or to stay up a little bit later or to get up a little bit earlier, but like, why are you doing this? If your why is deep enough, and it should be, that should fuel your fire. And if it's not, then maybe you need to kind of figure out what your why is and why you are doing this. But that for me fueled me for so long. It's like, if I can do this, I can stay home with my babies more. And I had set a goal in my mind of where I wanted to be, what rank I wanted to be, senior gold, so that I could step back and work part time and be home half the time. So I did that for 2 years where I worked part time, and then I worked my Plexus business. And that was, there's different challenges that come. You're home more with your kids, so you want to be intentional with your kids. You're not working as much, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have more time. You just have to be more creative with your time. So during that time, same thing, I would try to do my work, Plexus work and my breaks at my actual job if I could, over lunch. And then a lot of times I would just schedule things for the evenings. I would have to be really diligent about just getting my kids in bed at a certain time. For us, that's 8:30. I know a lot of people get their kids in bed sooner. And then giving myself a bedtime of 10:30. So that gives me an hour and a half or 2 hours to get my business working after that. To be honest, like I don't watch TV. I did before I started Plexus, but it was one of those things like, what is a priority to me? Like binging Netflix or my favorite show or watching TV is nice and it's a fun outlet sometimes, but that's not going to get me where I want to go. I'm not saying there's no place for those things, and I don't want you to feel bad if you do those things, but for me, it just wasn't a priority. Like I could spend that time watching TV, or I could spend that time building this legacy business for me and my family. And so that's kind of where I chose to put my time and my energy. Um, Now, as of this summer, so I had my fourth baby at the end of February. COVID stuff happened, and I just decided now is the time that I'm going to stay home and give all my energy to my kids and to my Plexus business. And just because I'm home does not mean that it has been easy to find the time. You have to make the time to work your business, you guys, because I was just talking to somebody on my team about this today. Like, you have to plan ahead for this. The time, extra time isn't just going to find you. You have to make the time. There is never a moment where I'm like, gosh, I wish I had something to do right now. I'm so bored. Maybe I could work my Plexus business. Like, that's never going to happen. And maybe if that happens for you, that's incredible and you run with that. But for me, that never happens. I'm also, this is our first year. We decided to keep my 5-year-old home. So we're doing some homeschooling with him at home. And so I'm kind of managing all of that. But I just have some different tips for you guys, no matter where you're at in your season with working your business, some different things that have worked for me. And I will be honest when I say I went through seasons where I've done this really well, and I went through seasons where I've not done this really well. And I can tell the difference in myself and my relationships and in my business when I am doing this well. And I'm doing it consistently and diligently. Like Chelsea was saying, she has to show up consistently on Instagram, and you have to continually do these things and plan ahead and show up for your business, or those seeds are not going to be planted and you're not going to reap the benefits down the road. So one of my big tips is just planning ahead. Like, if you sit down, my husband and I sit down on Sunday evenings and we look at our schedules for the week, and I'm going day by day, like, when am I going to work my business on Monday? When am I going to work my business on Tuesday? And I'm writing it into my calendar. I'm not saying like I might do this if I have time. No, because I'm never going to have time if I don't make the time to do those things. That's just the reality of our lives. We're busy, and there's always going to be a million things that we have to do or that are pulling at us. So I'm writing those things in my planner. I'm writing down those things. And then another big part of that is me communicating that with my husband. So if you're married or you have a spouse, or a partner or even a family, like, communicating those things with them. So we had a team Zoom tonight at 9. So we go through our calendar and I'm like, I have a Zoom at 9. So, if we don't have the kids all in bed by then, or I'm going to have to check out a little early, or I need to do some prep work for that. Um, there are days where, and thankfully he's a business owner also, so he can be a little flexible, but he also understands the stress and the demands of that. And, when you get home at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, can I have an hour to kind of check out and work, and you take over the kids and you do dinner prep that day? And so we go through day by day and we talk about those things and we communicate our expectations and the responsibilities. And I know everybody has different opinions about that. As a stay-at-home mom, sometimes I feel like all those things should fall on me. But at the same time, you guys, I'm running a business, and that doesn't just happen. I am running a six-figure business while I'm raising my kids at home. And he gets to go away to work and run his business and then come home. So for me, like, I don't feel guilty having him do supper 1 or 2 nights a week. I know everybody has different opinions about that, but you have to communicate those expectations. Thankfully, my husband is on board with this, and he 100% fully supports me. And I know that I could not do this without him. Um, and I think that's another important thing that goes with time management is getting that person or those people in your life, who support you or love you or who are in your household that have to do with, like, the amount of time that you have to give to this, helping bring them on board with you. And I know everybody is probably at different places with this, but for me, what that looks like was like letting my husband know my hopes and dreams for this business, which, was to be home with my kids more, and then to be able to help our family financially and save and pay off debt, and letting him know those hopes and dreams. And then also, like, taking him along on things with me. So when Chelsea and I earned that Silver Stars trip, both of our husbands went and they met each other. But for my husband, Kyle, that was a huge eye opener for him, like, what was possible with this business, what this company was all about. Taking him to Leaders Retreat with me, which I know we're all devastated that Leaders Retreat is not happening, but letting them know all these amazing things that our company is doing helps, I think, just like build the belief in our family and our significant others and our partners also, because when they see your passion and your fire, and they see what you're doing, and they see the company and that's aligning, it's hard for them to not be on board with that. And so I would just, if you have a spouse or a partner who's not okay with the time you putting time into this, or not really okay with you doing that, have those open conversations with them. And I think it did help for me to bring my husband and see other people who had done this and who had been successful. Um, but I would really encourage you to talk to them about your hopes and your dreams, because that has been really helpful for me being able to make the time to do this. Um, Honestly, like I said, my husband, he helps out a lot, and I have to communicate that to him though. I can't just expect that he's going to give me time to work if I'm not communicating, hey, I need time to work today so that you can watch the kids and vice versa. Um, Another thing that we do, or that I do, is one day a week my kids go to the sitter's house. And at first I was like, oh, if I'm a stay-at-home mom, I feel guilty. No, like, you can't feel guilty about that, you guys. You are running a business. You have to treat it like a business. And it is, I mean, to some extent, you can build your business to a certain point, doing it in the nooks and crannies, but then, like, you're going to stall out and you're going to stalemate there, and you have to treat it like a business. And I can be a much better mom when my kids go to the sitters one day a week, so I can just focus on Plexus and I get a break from them. And I love my kids. I can be so much more present when I know that, okay, on Wednesday, I have this whole list of things I'm going to get done when I don't have them, so I can be more present when I am with them. Um, Another thing too that I do, like, so that I can be present with my kids, is like during school time, during meal times, during our evening family time, during bedtime routines. There are certain times where my phone's just off limits. I have to physically put it in a certain part of my house, so that I'm not checking it all the time. But I know that nothing with Plexus is an emergency. So it's really important for my kids to not see me on my phone constantly. And I really do try to honor that time with them. If I can give them my time, undivided attention, um, then I don't feel bad later when I need to say to them, mommy needs to work. You guys, and this is another thing that I do. I save their tablets, and okay, here's your technology time. You can play your tablets and mommy's going to do some work. I also think it's important for them to know if I am on my phone and or I need to do something, respond to messages, like, mommy's working. It's not just that mommy's on her phone and she doesn't care about you. Mommy's doing Plexus and Plexus is work. So you got to kind of bring the whole family on board. But I do think it's important that we're not on our phones all the time. Nobody wants to be on their phone. We want to be home with our kids. Like, that's what we're doing. You want to be present with your family. So really be intentional about setting aside those times. So planning ahead helps with that a ton. When I know that I have 8 to 9 o'clock set aside to respond to messages, I don't feel like I'm responding to messages all day long. Um, so reminding your family why you're doing this, reminding yourself why you're doing this, reminding your spouse why you're doing this. Um, if I am having a hard time staying present with them because I'm thinking about all the things that I need to do, I'm just going to jot down notes on a piece of paper or in my phone, and I'll take care of that stuff later. So I'm always constantly making lists of, like, I want to check in on this person. I want to do that, but I don't have to do it right now. I'm just going to write it down so I can do it later. And then you prioritize those things when you go to sit down and do it. I feel like my to-do list is never ending. I'm never going to get through it. So I'm constantly prioritizing, which people do I need to check in on first? What things do I want to do first? Today is my back office day. I'm going to check that first before I do other things. This ultimately, I think that's most of my tips, you guys. This is a business and we have to treat it that way. Like Chelsea said, like, this is our storefront. And it you have to see it that way. And when you start treating it like that, I think the people around you will start treating it that way. And to be honest, like, my husband, he knows the potential that this business has. He sees it and he's like, Brooke, like, your business has all this potential to help us financially right now and long term. Like, how can I not give you the time to do that? So if your spouse or your partner or your family is not there, you keep working your butt off in the nooks and the crannies, and you keep making the pockets of time, and you stay up a little bit later and you get up a little bit earlier and you do the things and you prove to them and you show them that you can do it and all the potential that this has. And I guarantee you they're going to come on board with you sooner or later. They can't deny that when you're doing that. So you keep doing your thing and rocking it, and they will come on board with you, and you're going to prove to them. And whether or not they're supportive of you, that's not going to stop you from reaching your goals and dreams if you have your why. And ultimately, that's what's going to help you prioritize your time and make that sacred, and make that something that you don't compromise on, because you have your goals and you have your dreams. and you're going for it. So those are my tips. I don't have anything else for you guys. I don't know if anybody has any questions or any other comments, anything that you guys want to say. Anybody else want to take the floor before we close things out?
Actually, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah. I'm on Chelsea's team, and thank you all so much for getting this together. And this has been such a fantastic call. The jotting down notes when you're having trouble staying present, that's a really, really good tip. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm having trouble planning. I stay home with a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old. And I have trouble planning out like when I want to do my business, morning, afternoon, night. And if something blows up in that time when I have planned to do my business, I get like so anxious and agitated, and then I can't focus for the rest of the day. And I'm having one of those days today. And so what tips do you have? Because you have way more kids, and I send a couple of them off to school a few days a week. I feel like you have way less time than I do. So what are any tips that you have for just getting over that and adapting and kind of rolling with the changes?
Yes. And I will say I totally still have those days. So do not feel like you are alone with that. But I think that that's a really great question because, and actually Chelsea and I were talking about this yesterday on the phone when we were kind of planning, and I was just like, I have had to lower my expectations and lower my expectations for myself and for my kids. So that has been really huge for me. Like when we first started and I was doing homeschooling with my 5-year-old, and I had these expectations that we're going to get it done in this certain amount of time. And then we're going to have all this time the rest of the day. And I'm going to have this chunk of time in the afternoon to do my work. And that didn't happen either. And so there were days where I would be so frustrated. But I've had to lower my expectations for myself. I'm the type of person too who thrives on like checking things off and being productive. And if I don't get those things done, then I feel poorly about myself. So just remembering too that like not every day is going to go as planned, and it's okay. You know what? If you only can get one thing done today, then what's your top priority? Like what's the number one thing that you need to get done so that you can have that peace of mind moving into the next day, and you just roll your list over. Like what are the things that you can't compromise on today that you have to get done, and maybe you try to make another pocket of time for that to get done. And I'm not somebody who, I don't love to just throw my kids in front of the screen, but you know what? Gosh darn it, give yourself a break. And sometimes you have to do that to get something done. Like today, I was like, I got to turn a show on because I need to be able to focus on this phone call, and that's the only way they'll leave me alone. So I had to lower my expectations for myself that I can like entertain my kids all day long, and lower my expectations for them that they're not going to just play without fighting for 30 minutes straight while I get on this phone call. Does that make sense?
Can I interject on that too? Because
Yes.
that happens daily at our house.
Yes, please.
Where we have the best laid plans. I think for me, because I always like plan, I try to have a quiet time in the middle of the day where both of my kids, that's when they have their hour of their little educational iPad, and I get Plexus work done. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. But Sarah, and I know Sarah and I have talked about this before, but like having a non-negotiable, like every single day I'm going to touch my business no matter what. And there are some days where it doesn't happen until bedtime. It just doesn't happen. But I know that every day when I have my brain dump in the morning, I write down everything that has to be done for that day. And here are my top 3 or my top 5 that must get done today. They may not get done until after the kids are in bed at 8:30, but those are my non-negotiables for the day. Everything else, like you said, Brooke, can roll over. But that kind of takes the stress off of me. Even if it's like 4:30, the kids are screaming, I'm getting dinner on the table. Okay, well, I didn't get my, 1 o'clock quiet time today, but when the kids are in bed, like these are the 4 things that are going to get done today, like non-negotiable. And just kind of having that mindset that they may not get done till the end of the day, but just having that mindset that you have to touch your business every single day, no matter if it's right before you go to bed or not, just making that deal and promise to yourself.
Yes, I love that.
Can I ask you a quick question about that, Chelsea? When you say that you have your brain dump in the mornings where you make that list of 3 to 5 things, is that 3 to 5 Plexus things? or is that your 3 to 5 things you want to do for your day?
Well, most of the time, I mean, most of the time it involves something Plexus because, you know, it just does. But no, I have like a top 5 priority list. Like these things must get done today, you know, to keep my life sane. Like Brooke was saying, like one of those is straighten up my house. I have to do a 15-minute quick clean because I'm a clean freak every single day or I can't operate. So no, it's not necessarily Plexus, but a lot of them end up being Plexus because those things have to get done. But no, they can be other things too. And that's just been really helpful. I just literally have a notebook that I keep in my kitchen and I get up 2 hours before my kids and I just brain dump in the morning. Like these are the things that have to get done. If they don't get done, I turn the page and I write them on the next day. Just keep keep the notebook flowing. But that's been a help.
That's a great idea. I love that, Chelsea. Was there anything else that anybody has before we wrap up the call? I know we're pushing an hour here, so I really appreciate everybody sticking with us. And if you need to jump off, go ahead and feel free to do that. Chelsea, I had one more question for you before we go. I was really curious. So I know you talked about when you get a new follower, you are messaging people, just introducing yourself. I'm curious, are you ever then like messaging them about Plexus down the road once you've built that relationship, or are you just really letting them come to you when they've seen your stuff about Plexus?
That's a really good question. So in the beginning, I was doing more cold messaging and doing more reaching out about Plexus. But here's a really cool thing that I have discovered about Instagram is that if you do it right, people truly will come to you. And I'm not saying that I don't do the back work. Like if somebody messages me about Plexus, you better believe they are going on that potentials list forever. And every time we have a sale or a special, I'm reaching out. But it has truly been amazing to kind of talk, all the things that I talked about tonight, like adding value, people really do. I'm not saying like this is magic sauce and you just sit back and the people just roll in, but this formula works. You build trust with people and they really will come to you. So kind of what that looks like for me, if I post a testimony or something, let's say 50 people like my testimony, all of those people are getting a message from me. Thank you so much for liking my testimony. These products have changed so much for me. I'd love to send you a quick video of what I take if you're interested. 20% of people might message me back. But that's, kind of when they go on that potential list. So that's really the only time now that I'm reaching out to people if they're engaging with my Plexus post or engaging with my stories, my Plexus stories. I don't do a whole lot of cold messaging and all of those relationship building. If we started out relationship building, unless they've reached out to me or expressed some sort of interest, unless I see that there's like a blatant physical need, if they're like posting about thyroid every day, I'll reach out. But no, I really don't. I don't do a whole lot of reach outs, but I do a lot of messaging and a lot of relationship building.
Okay. That's super helpful though. I appreciate you sharing that. And I love that it is just so natural and it just shows that like you're building so much trust and you're building those relationships and that people are coming to you for those things. But there's also a lot of follow-up and consistency on your end with like 50 people like my post, I'm sending 50 messages. So I think that is really valuable. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Oh, can you share your IG handle? Alma just asked in there.
Yes, I'll share it. It won't let me share the underscore for some reason, but it's keeping house _ at the end.
Perfect.
Yeah.